everybody. Car vlog. Everybody come in late night or early morning car vlog. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. This is Chris Classic. Hoping that you guys are having a wonderful night or morning. Nobody tells you today. I didn't tell you today. Remember that God loves you, Christ loves you, and I love you as well. I'm praying for you guys. Making sure you subscribe to the Take It Home podcast where I talk about wrestling topics and I put up my matches as Classic Alpha, a professional wrestler of 13 years. Make sure you also subscribe to C3 Ultimate Wrestling. That is me and my wife's professional wrestling company that we will be getting back August 30th at the 11th hour. So get your tickets on Eventbrite. It's in Dyer, Indiana. Harold's private venue. Tickets are $5 off on Eventbrite, but they'll be $5 more at the door. Bars. I've been putting this video off for a bit, but I guess I got inspired and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. I'm trying to figure out the best way to title this video. So if the title changes, but then the thumbnail still has the same thing, I ain't feel like changing. But I did want to speak about it. You know, sometimes when a wrestler or wrestlers they get released from WWE, sometimes it's like they have a blueprint of how they handle being released. Outside of them basically not competing for dang near 3 months, they're usually 90 days and stuff like that. Sometimes they'll be like they'll start a podcast or they'll start other ventures, they'll stream, they'll get signed to other companies and stuff like that. And usually what the blueprint used to be, this: get released by WWE, wait 3 months, wait 90 days, whatever. You debut at another company or you debut on the independent circuit, you cut a promo, and that promo consists of they didn't know what to do with me, or they missed an opportunity, they suck, they mimic how people talk, they mimic somebody, and then either they make the best of it, or people will be like, let it go. They call them bitter, they call them sour, they say crown of a spoiled grape, sour grapes and stuff. They say to move on and stuff like that. So I did want to speak about that. I wanted to speak about the certain situations. Now let me be honest here. This isn't just per se to just say like we're trying to put a cape on and like protect WWE. WWE has done some foul stuff, and I'm saying not just Vince. I'm saying like as a business as a whole, the Jerome Laurinaitis, the Paul Levesque, and all of these other people and stuff. I'm going to sit here and say that too. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just be like, oh, well, they've been great. Nah, they've done some bad things, right? But sometimes when people do bad things to you, people peep on how you react. They'll react to your reaction bigger than the person that did you something. That's just the way of the world. WWE has done some bad things, and they've let go of people, and they've lied to people. And then on the flip side, we're on the outside looking in. Sometimes these people do want money, or they're very unprofessional, or they're not getting it, or they just don't want to change. These are the kind of things that do happen. So do I think that some of the wrestlers who get released, are they bitter? Some of them are. Some of them are validated though. And some of them actually like make the best of what they have. Sometimes they don't even be bitter, they're trying to move on, but a lot of these people who do interviews and podcasts and stuff, they ask them about where they were previously employed at, and then sometimes they speak about it and sometimes they do not. But I don't think that everybody is bitter. I do think some of them are, but I do think some people make the best of it, right? I think Cody Rhodes comes to mind as being like a guy who made the best of his situation, because look at what he is now. Look at all the accolades. The man has made so many accolades that people are sick of seeing him. They're like, else, like lose, do something else. Like, we don't want to see this no more. I'm like, hey, he got a lot within the time period of him being in WWE, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But him being one of the figureheads in AEW, and then even having like Chris Jericho's support and backing to be in AEW, that got people to think. Because around the time that Cody did leave, he was Stardust. And I know that he didn't really care for the character and stuff like that, but some people did. And some people still like Cody or whatever like that. But, a lot of people, they was rocking with Cody when he went to AEW. And One of the first things he did when they had their show, I don't think it was technically AEW, it was All In at the time, was he had his wife Brandy give him a sledgehammer, and everybody's like, oh well, we know what that sledgehammer represents. Then Triple H had a Triple H throne, and he smashed the throne. Well, he tried to smash the throne, and it had like a slight crack, like nothing really happened to it, and people made fun of him. Like, some people get it, they knew how symbolic it was, but at the same time, people was like, hey man, you're in better pastures for yourself. Why did you do this? This is, I don't want to say it was corny, but a lot of people crack jokes about it. Like, man, bro, you shouldn't have did that. Why did you do it? But even then, outside of that, he did the best he could with the company of AEW and stuff like that. And then what happened? A lot of people started booing him. And I knew that people was going to start booing him because he had WWE residue on him. And he wrestled the style of how WWE does things. And I felt that fans, no offense to some of y'all, but some of y'all wanted to boo somebody. And Cody was just the one. They started saying he started doing stuff for himself. I'm like, dog, a lot of them people was doing stuff for themselves. But still, I think that Cody made himself undeniable, especially in AEW and the stuff that he did and the stuff that he contributed and stuff like that. So I don't want to say he was bitter, but I do want to say he did perfect his craft. And I do want to say, like, just because somebody becomes more successful in another company, it doesn't technically mean that the company that they left, they dropped the ball on them. You know, sometimes people do change and they do experiment with certain characters and stuff like that, and I think it works. Toni Storm is a great example. I'm not saying she's bitter or nothing like that. You know, the way she did it, she just left. And, you know, she just did what she wanted to do. And I think she grabbed her career by the reins and she ran with it. Now she has a compelling character that a lot of people like to see and stuff with Timeless Toni Storm and stuff. You know, the promos, the black and white stuff and all of that. Like, you know, it wasn't like she just showed up in AEW as Timeless Toni. So that's why I'm trying to say, you know, to me, she was kind of like herself or how we remembered her in WWE and stuff like that. And then having her with in a faction with Saraya and Ruby Soho that went nowhere, I don't think that helped neither, right? But with the Timeless stuff started hitting. So I don't think that a lot of people say bitter. Maybe they get an opportunity to show a character that they wanted to do, right? So I do think that that's like one of those. But I do think like Cody Rhodes and how he returned and how people loved him and stuff like that. He made himself undeniable. That was the right way of how to do it and stuff. Outside a couple hiccups, obviously, you know, he definitely didn't need to hit the throne. But still, CM Punk is one of the ones. Would you say he was better? Oh man, I think that man was. What they WWE was doing some bad stuff. I do think that they treated him wrong. However, I do think that he was slightly ungrateful with certain situations. I know one of his gripes was never main eventing a WrestleMania and championship matches. You've had stuff that people who've been in there longer you didn't have. Now, for you wanting more, I'm not really mad at that, but I do think like certain ways that he went about it. Even coming back with the best in the world stuff, it worked. I bought a best in the world shirt. I did it. I was a fan. I still am a fan of CM Punk and stuff like that. But stuff started messing up again and stuff started not going his way. Didn't like certain things and certain directions and, you know, didn't like how they was treating him and stuff. He left. Then when he left, boy, did he have that podcast with his ex-homie Colt Cabana. And man, I remember people sharing clips of it. People watched it. People subscribed to Colt Cabana's podcast and all of that stuff. You want to know how toxic that one was? It was so toxic that him and Colt not even cool no more. To the fact that when he showed up to AEW and stuff like that, he started bringing up Colt in his personal situations because when WWE sued them, they sued Punk and Colt Cabana, and Cabana allegedly was asking Punk to help him with certain finances and lawyer fees, and that's where the falling out is happening. So man, it went bitter in scientific notations because now it was Colt who was Scotty Goldman in WWE, and it was Punk as well. You know, Punk went to AEW and then he cracked jokes. He was like, hey, you know, this is where the best wrestle at. If you don't know that, why don't you go to the other spot that has a 2-for-1 special for WrestleMania? We ain't said WrestleMania, you know, I'm paraphrasing. Which is funny because this year he might have been in one of those 2-for-1 specials. technically it's not main eventing WrestleMania, it's main eventing night one, but hey, it is what it is. It's main eventing one night. So that's how they did it. It should have went to Jay, justice for Jey Uso, but still. The promos he would do certain things, but the thing is, Punk is great on the microphone, so he wasn't always speaking about it like every week. He wasn't posting about it. He wasn't doing stuff. And like I said, to be fair, it was some wrestlers that was like sending jabs and stuff. I remember when Dolph Ziggler did he didn't do a podcast. He did a promo when he was signed to WWE. He was like, I'd rather wrestle here every day than lay on my friend's couch and do a podcast. And I was like, oh man, why did he throw that at CM Punk? And I remember CM Punk posting broken arrows, wasted arrows. I'm like, it wasn't wasted arrows because you made a post. I get what he was saying. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes it's not bitterness. Sometimes it is just being upset. And I'm going to say this as a professional wrestler. Sometimes companies do you bad. And sometimes you want to empty the clip. You want to get online. You want to speak about the company and stuff. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say like, I've been treated the best certain companies, and the ones I haven't been treated the best, I don't wrestle for no more. It is what it is. Sometimes people treat you wrong about pay. They try to talk to you. They lie to you and stuff. Not just in life. How you handle it is very important, right? It's very, very important. You know. I also want to say sometimes WWE may be right with how they want people's direction in WWE, and sometimes people just don't like it. You know, you think of Adam Copeland, or AKA Cope, AKA Edge, and look at the situation that he was in and stuff. You know, he didn't like the direction of the group Judgment Day and stuff like that, and how they wanted to go about it. And, you know, it looked like they probably switched some stuff around or whatever like that, and Judgment Day became some great characters that people wanted to see. Dang, they became must-see TV with the Judgment Day and stuff. But Edge, he still wanted to wrestle. He still wanted to do certain things that WWE didn't want him to do. And then now you look at him, he's just returning from an injury because his 50-year-old self decided to jump on Malachi Black off a cage and wound up breaking his leg, and he had to vacate the title and stuff. And some of his matches are good and some of them is not. Adam Copeland is doing Jeff Hardy stuff now. Like when Christian needed help, Edge returned and he was out here going off of each side of the panel and stuff. Just like when Jeff debuted in AEW, he was doing his little jig before. I'm like, bro, your brother need help. Help your brother. What's going on? All jokes aside, still, you know, some of his stuff is good, but I do think like Edge's promos, especially as a good guy, is not his strong suit. When he was rated R superstar, I know they're still saying, is Copeland, wherever he's going by, is he really rated R in AEW? Is he really rated R? So him, you know, being nice and saying this and didn't know this and all of that, you know, it sounds decent. And then I think, you know, Ricky Starks, I think he blew him out the water with that smart he did. They got Ricky in trouble, but still, I'm just saying, you know, sometimes WWE be kind of right with certain things. Hey, I don't think you should do this kind of stuff anymore. Maybe I don't agree with the direction. Sometimes it's not holding a person back. Sometimes you are trying to protect your investment, and sometimes you want things to go a certain way. You know, sometimes these wrestlers ain't with it. Like, hey, I want to do it this way. And then they'll be like, all right, bet, you gone. Another one, which is interesting, was Mandy Rose. Shout out to her, shout out to what she does. And I was listening to her, and, you know, I was like, man, I wanted to speak about this before as well, but shit, she did it. So shout out to her, and I actually love the content. But Mandy Rose is one of these ones that, like, you know, she was just released out of nowhere. Mind you, she was the NXT Women's Champion, and she was the NXT UK Champion. They had, like, just unified it, and they let her go. So apparently, one of the reasons why they let her go all of a sudden was because an exclusive site, a fan site. You know what I mean when I say that. So that was just one of those things. You know, WWE is, like, for the most part, big on, like, wrestlers, because these wrestlers are images of them. So sometimes they don't want certain things or whatever like that. So that was, like, one of the key things. And I remember, like, Mandy Rose, she went on a tour. I don't know what her real name is, so I'm just calling Mandy Rose. She went on, like, a tour and a tangent about the situation, saying, hey, you know, they don't want you to make money over there. And at one point they didn't. They wanted people to stop their streaming and stuff like that. This was before they was doing the mass releases. They wanted to get rid of they didn't want people to do certain things, or they wanted to cut of it, which is crazy to me. But still, so she talked about that, and she was saying, like, hey, I made more money doing this than me wrestling at NXT, on NXT and WWE at all. And I'm like, dang, that is crazy, because a lot of these fans, they'll buy these women bathwater. They'll buy these women bathwater. They'll buy socks. They'll buy clothes and stuff. And these women be having exclusive pictures that really be Instagram pictures, but still people will look at it and people will buy it, people will subscribe it and stuff like that. Me personally, I don't think that's the best thing to do for income, but to each their own. And then now almost every time a woman gets released or she doesn't renew her contract, Mandy is her hands to work, man, because she gonna be like, hey, let's make some content. And lo and behold, some of these women go over with her, go wherever they're doing, they're making content and stuff like that. And I'm gonna say this too about that as well. Do what you want. As far, I deem it unrighteous, but hey, do what you want. But I want to say, one of the things that's worse than somebody being in the streets is something that's being on the internet, because you can put all this crazy stuff you want. You can sit here and put a paywall. You can sit here, have subscription service. You can say have all that stuff all you want. But somebody will find a way to download it, screenshot it, share it, upload it, sell it themselves. And then you might stop doing that, but they'll still have it and they'll still bring it up. You know, we think of the stuff of wrestlers whose stuff got leaked, unfortunately, and stuff like that, and then people still have it and they can look at that. So you got to be careful with these kind of things. I understand we all want to make money, y'all want to live in this stuff. A lot of these women competitors, they come out of nowhere and they say it. They say, hey, I make more money doing than wrestling. Like, well, you didn't want to wrestle. Retire from other stuff, or they just can't. And it's funny because that's like the blueprint for women wrestlers now. They get released and they're like, oh, wait till July. I got an announcement. And we know what the announcement is. We know exactly what the announcement is. We know y'all about to have a page. Y'all fit to take pictures with Mandy Rose. We know it. So it's like, all right, cool. You making a lot of money, but good Lord, we ain't got to know all this extra stuff. 1 second, y'all. I know I'm in my favorite spot.
How can I help?
Yes. Can I get a large strawberry Fanta, please?
That be it?
Yes, that'll be all.
Second window.
All right. I had to get my strawberry pop. Anyway, yeah. So it's just like, okay, cool. And it's like, as soon as these women get released, Mandy Rose is like, yeah, if y'all want to make some money, come with me. She sounded like Suge Knight. That's Mandy Knight right there, or Suge Rose. I'm like, I see, if y'all sick of y'all company, not letting y'all do what y'all want, come to Skin Row and show some skin. That's what that's what it reminds me of, yo. It reminds me of that, because it's just like, okay, and some women go, because some of these guys, they will drink these women's bathwater, which is nasty. You probably need to go to the hospital and get that checked out. But still, that is just one of the things that these women be doing. They do this stuff all the time. 1 second. All right. All right, appreciate you. Appreciate you. All right. Okay. All right. Appreciate you. All right. Yeah, back at the ghetto Wendy's. But anyway, still, yeah, it's like, I do understand. And then sometimes, this is my thing with some of the wrestlers, is that sometimes it'll be difficult to try to get that WWE residue off you, if that makes sense, right? Because it'll be like, oh, okay, because most of the time you have to change your name. You can't use the name that WWE gave you if it's not your name, right? So it's going to be difficult, because sometimes people are going to forever, or try to forever, remember you as this name. But then again, sometimes if you keep saying stuff about this company and you keep mocking them, they'll be like, this will be the person that never let WWE go. Like, they got upset, they got released and stuff like that. And I'm not sitting here, I'm not in the business of people losing their jobs and stuff like that. But man, when you get an opportunity to make some money, and it might not be as much, and you might not get that much exposure, but still, sometimes you do have to let things go, because sometimes it does come off as being bitter. Ricochet is a good point. You know, Ricochet, a lot of people liked Ricochet for the most part in WWE and stuff like that. And then when he left, I'll say to Ricochet's defense, a lot of people felt that he was a traitor. But do I think that he's handled it the best way? No, he ain't handled it the best way. I don't even think his wife handled it the best way. Hey, cursing people out and stuff is just like, sometimes you gotta let people go. You gotta let these things go and stuff. You know, people start talking about his bald head. They start talking about his promo skills. They start saying, oh, well, he just couldn't cut it in WWE and stuff like that. And to be honest, I do think they wanted him. I just think he got frustrated with certain situations. But then, man, he tweets like almost every time there's some info about WWE coming out, he says something and he uses a profane word. This is like, man, really? Do you really have to use a profane word, Trevor? Trevor, stop it, Trevor. But sometimes that happens. You know, WWE is big on like people not using certain things on their social media and stuff. And sometimes, you know, other companies, they'll let them. I mean, we've talked about how AEW, we talked about like, was it Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara? They literally scheduled a on-site appointment on Wednesday night. I remember it was like, oh, I'm gonna be there Wednesday, I'm gonna see you and stuff. I'm like, dog. And y'all let them show up in the building. Some people will let you do that, and some people want to have that freedom of expression and stuff. Now, you are free to express how you feel. However, you may not be free from consequences, which means people retweeting or responding or disagreeing with you, and they may say something either respectful or disrespectful. Because sometimes, like, something will come up that regards to WWE, and then Ricochet will come out of nowhere and be like, oh, F them. I'm like, dog, it's not about you right now. Ain't nobody talking about that certain situation. You know? And I do hope, you know, I do wish a lot of these wrestlers the best and stuff like that, because sometimes I don't think it is bitter, but I do think some of the times it is. It's like, okay, well, I didn't like how they treated me, so I'm gonna, every time I see them, I'm gonna put their name in the mud because I don't like what they did, you know? And to each their own, you know. MVP, you know, some people are like sharing some of the stuff that he said about, like, you know, getting Bobby Lashley to leave because he felt that WWE wasn't going to treat them right and stuff like that. And to be honest, they are OGs in the game at this point. So, my opinion, Lashley should have been in the main event. He should have been close to that or mid-card, but, you know, they didn't know what to do with him. And then MVP started, was like, hey, we need to go somewhere else. You know, Bobby has spoken about it, MVP has spoken about it, even Sheldon has spoken about it and stuff like that, you know. And even before him getting released, you know, MVP felt a certain way about how Triple H treated black wrestlers. We've made media videos about that, right? And it's like, now it's to the point, it's just like, if he says anything else, I'll be like, man, we know, man, respect you, man. We know, though. We know how he is. We know how you feel and stuff like that, you know. Lashley said he felt better. He felt Vince treated them better than Triple H did. You know what I'm saying? And I'm by the man, I don't say that. I'm just joking about the situation with the MVP about if we say something. But we do get it. You know, we definitely understand. There's a lot of wrestlers that went through something, and that sometimes they either let it go or they do not. They continue to speak about it. I'm trying to remember that I speak on everybody that's in that still shot that I have for my thumbnail. It was 6 people: Edge, Mandy Rose, Punk, Cody, Ricochet. Am I missing somebody? I might be missing somebody. You know. But still, I'm gonna try one more time. Edge, Mandy Rose, Cody, Ricochet. I don't know. Somebody. It's somebody. Oh, MVP. Yeah. So still, yeah, but yeah, we've seen stuff. We've seen like wrestlers, they like get on podcasts, and it's the blueprint. A lot of these podcasts, they come in, they're like, hey man, I want some exclusive content, so hey, why don't you speak about you being released and stuff? You know, Swerve Strickland, you know, he was on DJ Platt, and he spoke about like his frustrations with WWE and like Triple H and stuff like that. And outside of the little spat he had with like Booker T, you know, it's very informative, because I do think a lot of companies do that. It's like, hey, we want you to do this, I'm gonna treat you like this, and then you turn around and you don't do them that way, you know. Even with Punk and AEW, you know, he was trying to do certain things, and it was to the point that he was like, hey, I want to wrestle on one show. I don't want to mess with them. I want to mess with this. And then at one point it was like, hey, we'll let you have this show. And then he would kick the people out he didn't want. A lot of people don't have that, and unfortunately it still got messed up because somebody felt a certain way. And Punk felt disrespected and he retaliated. Was it the best way for him to retaliate? Of course not. You know, especially when it goes into fisticuffs. And then he also went after Tony when you looked at that footage. Wasn't the best thing to do. It honestly wasn't. But still, that's just one of those things you have to understand is that, like, sometimes they don't even want to speak about it. It's just that some of these companies ask. They ask because that's what they remember them as. Hopefully, more podcasters will talk about what do they have going on in the future and stuff like that. I remember that time where Mercedes Moné was signing autographs somewhere when she was dressed as Woody from Toy Story. It was a weird video, but still. And somebody was asking her about release and stuff in WWE, and she's like, who told you that? Who told you that? Nobody told you that. She was like, when I say it, I'm going to say it. And she spoke about it eventually. But she spoke about it on her terms. But even then, that reaction she had with the fan, some people liked it and supported her. Honestly, most people supported her decision. But then some people felt like, hey, that was rude because the fan was asking the question. You should have just answered it, or you should have answered it better. I'm like, well, maybe she was in character. Maybe she was in character. These are also things that are very important too, you know. I do think that some are bitter. And sometimes you can be bitter without even like expressing being bitter. Sometimes you just be like, not even bitter. Sometimes your feelings is just validating. Hey man, I feel like these people should have did me better and they did me wrong. And that kind of stuff happens. That's with wrestling, that's with life, relationships, jobs, anything, promotions, anything. How you respond to it is like very, very important. You know, I don't think like talking about it every day and tweeting about it every day or making promos about it every day is not the best thing. Which is funny to me because when people who aren't great promo talkers in WWE, they do get an opportunity to speak, they have one of the best promos talking about a company that they no longer work for. It's not a good thing. And sometimes you gotta translate that fire into something else. Charisma, better moveset, being undeniable, looking better, wrestling better, and stuff like that, and all that. Sometimes, you know, it's just an opportunity. You know, AEW is a wrestling company. A lot of people have went. Some people have done great successes, and some people are trying to mold their craft and stuff like that. But it is what it is. So I do want to speak about that for a little bit. Thank you guys for rocking with me. Let's speak about this in the comments about bitter. Do you think some of these wrestlers are bitter? Do you think their feelings are validated? Do you think that they, you know, have a reason to feel a certain way? And have they responded the best way? Who's done it the best way and who's done it the worst? Let me know. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.